We own the theater. It's ours.
Working in the round is fantastic.
Because you're close to the audience and you can use facial expressions better.
Oh, I think they did want to challenge audiences all the time. I don't think they wanted to ever do anything that was ordinary.
You could see your work making a difference, whether it was backstage or on the stage. You all made a difference.
Advertising, sales, religion, politics are all 80% theater. I had a date with him and he took me to Theater in the Round.
We go to this costume party for Theater in the Round. I'd never heard of them.
And then I met Douglas Hatfield. He was the one that told me about the tryouts for Washoman at TRP.
The first show I was involved in, and the role was very secondary, just walk on. I don't think I even had any lines.
I came to Minneapolis with Theater in the Round having been recommended to me by some people who lived here.
One of my co-workers was an electrical engineer by the name of Charlie Champlin. And he was very active in the theater, always talking up, trying to get people to come and support the theater. Charlie needed help for separate tables.
Would you come and help me with box office? We're putting up tickets. So I helped with box office, and then I've got more and more involved as time went on.
Okay, that's kind of a fun show. I'm going to try out for it. And I did. And I ended up getting into it.
Whatever needed doing, you sort of pitched in to make it work.
The budgets were non-existent. We begged and borrowed. I don't think we stole anything, but even furniture from my apartment was on set once in a while.
Working with Max Green and the sets.
I was on stage with Mac pulling out nails until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Had to save the nails. Had to save the nails. And the wood, of course.
We all had to do everything, you know. We'd be scrounging for furniture, would be scrounging for props.
I did a lot of posters for inside the theater. I worked on sets with Max Green.
We would paint sets, we would antique furniture, we would, you know, try to do everything we could for every show. And we were sewing, and we were knitting, and we were crocheting.
Costumes. Those of us who could sew came backstage during the last week when costumes were really crunch time, and we did what we could.
I helped Roberta Kendricks on costumes.
Sewing seams, gluing lace on something, whatever.
And I never did costumes. I didn't want people to know I could sew because I really didn't like it.
I can remember making wigs for the one-way pendulum, crocheting those things, staying up nights.
Yeah, all the women were sitting around knitting them with this gray wool, you know.
I think so, yeah. I did chainmail for something.
Here I was living in an apartment. I probably owned 2 screwdrivers, a pliers, and a hammer, and I was supposed to build all these medieval props.
I was at 9th and Marquette, and I'd spend my lunch hours, walk down to the theater, do cleaning, do some set construction, fix something else up that needed fixing.
But when we did Washoman, at one end of this long rectangular stage, they had built a pseudo mountain, irregular mound, and they had gotten a bunch of used felt carpet padding, and it all had to be sewed together. So one MEA weekend, I would go to enough meetings to make it look legal, and then I'd duck over to the theater and I would sew with my carpet needle. I sewed for 2 days sewing this thing together.
I volunteered to help with set. My job was to dye 110 yards of cheesecloth to look like moss to dangle from the lighting standards and stuff. I was living in an apartment building in southeast Minneapolis. There were 2 washing machines and 1 dryer in the basement. I made a lot of enemies in my apartment building because and what a mess that was. But really effective in the end.
And I would end up having to be in the play, having to do a small part, and at the same time I was running around backstage helping people get ready to go on. I had an aversion to that because I thought, okay, if you're going to be in a play, be in the play. But if you're going to work on the play, technically do that, but don't do both.
Mopping the kitchen floor on Stevens Avenue.
I did really just usher, and every once in a while, if it was a comedy and we didn't have a very large audience, I remember being sent in as a clack, mainly because I had a loud voice and I laughed a lot.
And we did it because we always had a good time together.
As I said earlier, I had joked for so many years that I didn't have money to give, so I had to give myself.
It was pretty much of a family affair for us.
I had a strong back and a weak mind then, and I did a lot of carting and hauling, a lot of painting.
So everybody was there all the time, and it was a big social thing. I still have friends that I met 50 years ago from the theater, so it was a wonderful place.